Hey guys, welcome to Shadows of Redemption. I am Calavis Rand, and this is my own page. This is my own show, not associated with any other pages I do. This is just me hanging out with my friends, telling you like we see it. And sometimes those views are unpopular, and sometimes those views kind of hit home. But nevertheless, you're going to get an earful here on this show. So with me, of course, is Mr. Bo Llewellyn of Magica, the audio drama writer and personal mentor of mine. Of course, I got Master Shadow from the Path to a Galaxy Far, Far Away, and Sai, the historian from the Priory of the Phoenix. Gentlemen, this alkalite stuff is it's just gone out of control. I'm gonna say it. I'm kind of sick of it. I'm sick of being called um, misogynist. I was on a page the other day, and somebody had wrote that Kathleen Kennedy and Miss Headland should have kept their mouths shut and just presented the show. And I said I agreed with that. They should have just presented the show without saying everything that they said and let the fans decide how they liked it. Immediately, the guy falls back to his talking points. Oh, so all women should just shut up now, huh? I didn't say that. I would have told Ryan Johnson to shut up, but he didn't say much when he dropped his film other than I want to shock you and I wanted to give Star Wars a Viking funeral. If I would have saw him then, I would probably would have slapped the taste out of his mouth because he didn't know what he was doing either. So I'm a little I'm a little just, breaking canon. Let's just start where just breaking canon. Just retconning. That's another thing. Maybe I should just say retconning canon for your purposes.
It feels like it's not just if it was a purposeful mapping out redefinition of Star Wars canon that there was a need for, like, hey, we're going to introduce all these different force powers, and in order for us to do that, we have to make logical sense. We have to go A, B, and C. That's not what's happening. I don't think it is. I don't think it has any purpose other than one, which is to. I'm going to be careful, but I, I stop me if I get out of. You're. I can't hear you, Calibus.
Yeah,
You're on
look,
mute.
just you know what? I know I said let's not do just say it like it is.
Yes,
Fuck
sir.
it. We're just gonna say fuck it and just say it like it is, bro. Say it like it is.
Th- there has been a dismantling of masculine heroic figures that have shown up in the Lucasfilm archives as well as even the Spielberg film archives that were handed off to Disney. And when it happens once, you look at it and go, that's odd. And then, so when you see Indiana Jones become a doddering old fool and a, a woman is now the lead and she ends the show by punching him in the mouth, knocking him out, and dragging him through time because his decisions are no longer valid and he's not capable of being the hero of the show. And she's constantly schooling him. It's like, okay, okay, okay. That's not the retirement that we really wanted. That, we had a good send off, really. We had great send off with Henry Jones Sr. riding off into the freaking sunset with his son, Indy, with Sala and Marcus Brody. And I got chills right now just thinking about it. And then they dismantled him, and I could go through how they treated Luke into an old hermit, how they made Han Solo into the deadbeat dad that couldn't remember where he parked the Millennium Falcon. I could go into all this, but who seems to be uh, un unsmudged, if you will, by what's going on are the female characters. So I have a theory. It is it is just a wild theory. I said this to Mr. Rand on one of our messages. I said, it feels like to me that Mrs. Kennedy doesn't have fond memories of his time working on films with Mr. Lucas and Mr. Spielberg. And maybe all the little jabs that people have said about how that every picture has her getting coffee for Spielberg and Lucas doesn't set well with Miss Kennedy. And now she's redefining it. And even in certain ways, if you want to look at a white, tall, dark haired female gets inserted as the new hero in the Indiana Jones film and Rey in the Star Wars films, which looks like Kathleen Kennedy inserts. And it seems like this is personal, is my point. It seems like it's personal and that you can use the W word to explain what's going on, but it just feels like that she may have worked for somebody that maybe was inappropriate with her. I'm not saying that happened. Maybe it did. It was the 1970s. There was cocaine all over the place. There was the what did they call it? The casting couch. There was all that stuff that was negative going on. Maybe she saw some of it. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she experienced some of it. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she just wants to redefine it in her own vision. I don't know. But for her to hire um, Hedlund to come in, who was Harvey Weinstein's personal assistant, who she got the coffee for Harvey Weinstein. She set up all the meetings. She might have been the Kathleen Kennedy to George Lucas, and she sees a lot of herself in that. So she brings him over. Why? Why you would hand $180 million to someone. And by the way, everyone raise your hand if you can think of your favorite Headland movie or TV show before The Acolytes. I can't because there hasn't been one. And why you would do that, the only thing that comes to mind, I don't think South Park got it right. I don't think it was, let's put a chick in it, make it lame, make it gay, blah, blah, blah. I think that it's Machiavellian. There's cause and effect. The cause is Kennedy taking things personally and wanting to put her own stamp on things. The effect is the Forces female t shirts come out. That's the sword that she chose to draw. She could have drawn another sword. She could have done it some other way. But who knows? Maybe George Lucas saw himself in Han Solo. Maybe George Lucas saw himself in Luke Skywalker. So maybe Kennedy is like, I'm going to make these two people look terrible and I'm going to bring up this new character that maybe identifies with me. I'm sorry, I got on a rant.
No, 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 no. Because we all heard the tape. We've all heard the video of, seen the video and heard the audio of Steven Spielberg saying Kathleen Kennedy walking in and going, maybe he gets the dog. And they're all like, what? Go get us some coffee. Get out of here with that. Like she has terrible ideas. Okay. And then she's quoted by saying, if I don't get my way, I will burn this motherfucker down to the ground.
Oh,
Okay.
she's got something on somebody, man.
She
She's
has to have. And I
there's
think it's
Still
Iger.
working.
oof.
I
But
think
why
it's
is she
Iger.
still working? That's the craziest thing, right?
Oh, well, let's not forget about the whole all this money's missing. They froze her email accounts and everything, trying to backtrack it and found out the money was going to the acolyte. They stopped giving money to, of course, and you got to remember this too. Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2 are great, right?
Yeah.
Though, I mean, especially one. Kathleen Kennedy didn't have anything to do with that. She tries to, and even in the documentaries, you can see Favreau trying to, kind of like, hey, okay, you wait your turn, and she's just like, and this is what I did for this, and I'm like, you didn't do shit because one, Grogu products weren't even out. People on Etsy were selling that way before Lucasfilm did, and then Lucasfilm said stop and desist. I know. I buy off Etsy. I also sell off Etsy. And cease and desist orders were given out because I was like, hey, I want to get that up. Lucasfilm said no. They shut us down. So they didn't know how this thing was going to go. They weren't prepared. And now all of a sudden, she was concentrating on that new movie thing that she was going to do for her studio that she was going to get, Blood and Bone or some crap like that. And then Chapek was like, get your shit together and get back to Star Wars. And that's when John was having all these problems. We get these stupid ass episodes with Lizzo and Jack Black.
Oh, oh.
And I'm sitting there going, why are you destroying my Mandalorian? Okay, what are you doing? And I jokingly, because I have a friend who's very passionate about Book of Boba Fett. He's a big Boba Fett fan. And when Mandalorian came in here, I said, "Look, man, it took my dude to come in here and save your show." And then what happens? Season 3, I got Lizzo and Jack Black coming in, and then I have a whole episode on Imperial biscuit cookies, and I'm like,
Uh,
"Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you
it's
fucking kidding me?"
it's a
I am
far
so.
it's a
Mm,
far cry from that first episode, first season
oh
of
my
the
god!
spaghetti western opening of him walking in the bar and taking those guys out and getting his bounty and getting out the
Yes.
door. Oh,
Let me
Yeah.
tell you something. The moment I saw that, I went Star Wars crazy. The
yep.
moment I saw Luke motherfucking Skywalker, because I kept saying it's not Luke. There's no way in the world they would let Luke Skywalker come back. And then when I saw the gloved hand, I'm like, that is that going to be? I'm like, it's Luke. Oh, you know what I mean? I was almost like Star Wars theory, except for I didn't cry. I was just like, finally. And then you backtrack it, and then what do they do? John Favreau comes out and says it's been about a year since Grogu and Mando have been together. Hidalgo comes out with the Star Wars timeline book and says it's only been about like a week and a half.
No.
They
He's
messed with us so badly. But your theory, I think your theory is on point. I think she was humiliated. She was humiliated when they gave John Williams a send off. Steven Spielberg stands up. He's got Kathleen Kennedy and her husband on stage, and he goes, "Three people made Indiana Jones possible: Harrison Ford, George Lucas, and John Williams." And she's standing there kind of like, "Oh, no, they didn't." Yes, they did. So yeah,
yeah.
I think she's
Yeah.
doing it. I think she's doing it deliberately. I think she's doing it just to destroy Star Wars. As far as the Alkalite goes, it's an okay show. I wouldn't write home about it. I like the
Yeah,
first couple of episodes more than I did Endor, but here's the difference. I will watch Endor for Mon Mothma
yeah.
because I'm intrigued about her character.
Oh, me too.
This woman basically prostituted out her daughter
Yep.
to save the rebellion.
Yeah.
I've
To
been
start the rebellion, excuse me, to start the rebellion.
I've been obsessed with Mon Mothma ever since Return of the Jedi. Whenever she's given the speech, and I was like, "Who is this woman? What in
Hey,
the
you know,
world?"
And
how
she
she
was
had that
also
mini
fantastic
Boston
in
side getting us this information, right?
yeah. And I was going to say Rogue One. When you saw her in that movie, she was
Yeah.
fantastic in that as well.
Yeah, she was.
So she always they write her character well, and they find the perfect actress to play that role. So I'm impressed with Mon Mothma to begin with. Can't
And
wait
that's
to
the
see her.
only but
Yeah.
that's the only reason I'd watch Andor. It's not for
Oh yeah.
Andor because I know how his story ends and he's boring.
He's
But
super boring.
her and Luther are the only two interesting characters there. But at least they're interesting. These characters, I feel nothing for. These characters have nothing for me except for Saul. And I think I only like him because he was in Squid Game, and I know that he had to learn English for this role. So I don't
Yeah.
know if it's love because the actor actually was like, I've got to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe I have a love for the actor and definitely maybe not the character. But he was the only interesting one. And then somebody points out to me, why would a Jedi give a kid that might be trained in the dark arts his lightsaber? And I went, yeah, see,
Oh, Mr. Rand, I'll go beyond that. I made a
uh-oh.
list of items that came up in those episodes that violate lore. If it's okay, I'm going to present it to the panel.
Yes,
Please,
sir.
please, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I tried to stay away from other YouTubers to come up with my own, like, it's easy to go out there and watch a couple of videos and then just kind of like, oh yeah, this things that stood out to me as a lover of the prequels, of the Holy Trilogy, the uh, anything that's the Holy Trilogy and the prequels are kind of the Lucas design. Anything that, and in the EU, because there's not stories, it's fact that Lucas had to approve everything that went into the EU books. Like I remember when Chewbacca died in the EU books, he read the outline of the novel and he said, "I'll let you do it," and they were shocked. So in the Acolyte, I can't believe this. In the Acolyte, she says that Jedi never draw their weapons unless they intend on killing. Um, Carrie Ann Moss doesn't draw her weapons, kind of acknowledging this point, kind of like saying, "Oh, you're right," because she says it to her. Like a Jedi's never supposed to draw her weapon unless she intends on killing. And then Carrie Ann Moss kind of like looks down, like, "Oh yeah, that's right," forgetting that there is like huge amounts of lore where Jedi's draw their weapons, including the first time a Jedi ever drew a weapon in New Hope. It was Obi-Wan cutting off the arm of a dude at a bar just so he didn't have to kill him. He was making a point. And he was just like, when he got done, he was just like, okay, let's go sit down next to Han Solo and make a deal. You know, it wasn't like there's so many, like Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars movies. He would do all kinds. They call it Anakin doing Anakin stuff. He would cut holes in things. Qui-Gon Jinn and Phantom Menace stabbed into the wall to try to get the,
The
like,
door open, yeah.
all of it. And in the same episode that they said that, the Jedi Knight is going through the caves and he's using his lightsaber as a flashlight. And it's like, you're violating your own lore within the show, and that continues because Jedi um, don't do mind reading. That's always kind of been a Sith thing. Like when Palpatine was on his throne in Return of the Jedi, and he was like, your thoughts betray you now too. You know, he was like reading his mind, and Vader was dueling with him, and he was like, "You have a sister, a twin sister." And it wasn't, and Luke is sitting there trying to concentrate. He's like, "Oh, get out of my head, you old creep. Like, I don't want you to know this." And he read his thoughts. And they kind of like leaned into that with Kylo Ren when he was reading the thoughts of like Ray, and that was okay. But then you have these Jedi Knights showing up and like uh, reading their mind, and it was like, wait a minute, that was a dark side power like 3 seconds ago. What's going on here?
Yeah. See, I was really um trying to just flow with this, and it took a couple of days for some stuff to kick in, and you know everything about it just seems kind of flawed. You retconned Anakin, and I'm be the first one to tell you I don't. Anakin's the chosen one. I've always said, well, Luke's the chosen one for me because I just don't like the fact that just because you take up the Emperor and you throw him over the pit, you redeemed yourself for everybody you slaughtered along the way. I've never been a big Anakin fan on that, but in Ahsoka, him coming back for her through the Force gave me a little bit of, okay, you're still repenting for some of the stuff that you did, and I like that. I like that, but to try to retcon and make his birth have really little meaning or no meaning. Oh, we have these two this dyad. A YouTuber said that they even referenced this from. They didn't do that. They did not know. I can tell you now, Headland did not bother to look at the Last Jedi And right, the Last Jedi, isn't that the last one sequel? She did not go back and go, yeah, I'll connect this. They're not that smart. I'm sorry, they're not that smart. And you know, I have a lot of friends that are pagan or into or proclaiming themselves to be witches or whatnot and everything else. Um, a couple of them were offended. They did not like the way that was played out. They didn't like the way, you know what I mean, the way it looked and everything else. I personally just, I don't know. I think that it was a good premise, but shitting on the Jedi to me is not the way to do it, even if it is a Sith show, because we already know that three Jedi went to the Sith homeworld, and this is how the Sith came about.
Calibus, sir, let me point out one other thing that I cannot stand, and that is illogic, bad writing, and continuity breaking. Like, I have a continuity director on my novels. When I write a chapter, I pay somebody to read it over, and their entire job, 100%, is to tell me I'm fucking wrong. Is like, if they say, you had this character's eyes glowing green 2 books ago. Now, when this character gets mad, their eyes are growing red. You can't do that. That breaks continuity. And so that's my continuity director. In this episode alone, there was so many continuity that they had to establish. Like, okay, let's just say this with bad writing. Let's say this woman that they suspect of having killed a Jedi master, right? And who do they send to arrest it? Is it like three Jedi masters to go in there and go arrest this Jedi master assassin? No, they send a Padawan and a Jedi Knight. I I honestly thought when they sent that, I was watching the TV show and I thought, oh well, there's a mole in the Jedi Temple. Like, there's obviously they're trying to see this mission fail because they're sending a learner and a knight to go arrest someone that was powerful enough to kill Palpatine. And if you look at Revenge of the Sith, who went to arrest Palpatine? It wasn't a Jedi Knight and a Padawan. It was Mace fucking Windu, Kit
Mm-hmm.
Fisto, and two other Jedi Masters. And those two other Jedi Masters didn't fare so well, you know? It was only Mace that was able to hold up to him. And but they came in force. They didn't, they were like, hey, send a couple of stormtroopers to arrest Palpatine.
No, they sent the
What?
A team. They sent the
Yeah.
A team to go after him.
Mark didn't you say something about that too? That
Well, my only thought, the Emperor had to live because Mace Windu should have destroyed the Emperor by himself. He didn't need any backup. He's just as powerful, if not more powerful, than the Emperor because he channels dark side energy along with the light.
The
So
pod.
he's fantastic, and that's what I would have loved to see. If it wasn't for Anakin, the Emperor would have been killed right then and there.
Right then and
Um,
there.
right then and there. Now, like you were saying, I read a lot of the EU. That was my bread and butter for years. I absolutely love that. And every time I look at something that comes up new, and then I don't like that they pull stuff from the EU and then they change it to something else. And that,
Yeah.
that annoys the hell out of me. So I love those characters. I want them to stay where they're at. Don't bring Darth Bane or Darth Revan, or I can't stand that Grand Admiral Thrawn is now in their universe because that's not Grand Admiral Thrawn. Like I said before, every time I see that guy, I get pissed. So
Our
I read an
our
article. Huh?
our
I was gonna
Grand
say,
Admiral our Grand Admiral Thrawn from the EU is way more pimp than that.
hell
Yes.
yeah, hell yeah, and just the idea that he studies art to determine how a species reacts. This guy is just looking around, and then whatever happens happens. He's coming in
Yep.
a suit that doesn't fit. It's like, what the hell is that all about?
No
I,
offense
So
to the
I
actor,
remember you
but
saying that. I
that
remember you like,
was
what is this
yeah.
dude?
yeah,
Been eating? No.
yeah. So I was angry about that part. But I've read people like the one article I read that the guy he said, he loved EU because that was all we had for 20 years. And then when Disney bought it, they changed everything. And then people get upset when we are not happy about what's coming out now. And they're like, well, blaming us because we aren't supporting something that you don't want us to support. You made this for a new group of people that don't like it, and the old group of people don't like it, and you're blaming the old group of people. So, I'm not going to say much because the Alkalites, I'm trying to watch it for what it is, not for what I wish it was.
Sure.
So, that's what I figured for that. Um, for me, yes, it's better than Andor. I like it way better right now than Ahsoka because Ahsoka wasn't really an Ahsoka show. It was a Sabine show, and I don't like Sabine. So, and I figured when you look at Ahsoka, if she wasn't in that show, everything would have happened the exact same way it happened, without her being there because she brought nothing to that story. Absolutely nothing. She was just a person standing around that shit happened around, and then everything else would have worked out the same way it worked out, just as it did, and she made no difference whatsoever. So I like this show better than that show.
Okay, so
That's a
I
good
agree
point.
with you. Sabine, I used to be a good, I used to be, Rebels. I see Sabine, and then they retcon her and um, uh, God, what's his name? I forgot his Ezra's
Oh yeah,
characters, so they're like brother and sister, and then I hear they're going to make Sabine a lesbian, and I'm just like, I get
Yeah.
it, and I really get it. I really get it. You want to be included. Here's my thing about your inclusion, though. You want to take something that is established and then change it because it's popular, so you can say, see, it's here and it's very popular and it's all right. The only thing is you forgot that the people that made this thing popular are still here, and we're like, don't bring that here.
Mm.
yeah.
These You're changing characters just so you can say that they're here. So there was a guy that had said that they're doing this. They're basically imprinting themselves
Yeah.
in our stories to
Yeah.
tell their story. And
Hmm.
I've said this before on many of my podcasts that I'm not here to hear your story.
Mm.
Shira is a prime example of that. The showrunner said that she was a fan and she loved every episode. And next thing I know, she was going to prom. How is that you're a fan?
So wait, are you saying that they were trying to make a relationship between Sabine and Ahsoka a thing? Because
No, not
during
Sabine and
okay,
Ahsoka. Sabine and the
Dark side.
Sith apprentice or dark
Yeah,
sider.
oh really?
Oh,
Because
the
I
Dark
didn't.
Jedi. The Dark
the
Jedi.
Dark
And
side.
you know what? That brings me to this other little thing, because they're getting ready to retcon dark side and light side now, right?
Oh God,
I
yes.
heard about that, and
Yeah,
I
Because it's
can't believe they're going to do that.
problematic to say that.
Yeah, yeah.
For 50 years, we've all known the light side and the dark side, but for some reason, it's just like they say magic now. They don't say black magic; they say left hand and right hand magic.
Mm.
Which
And
is
I found that
problematic in
interesting.
itself. Which is very problematic in itself when they
Yeah,
say
well,
it.
yeah. What are you
Uh,
because now what are you saying, that right-handed people are the devil?
yeah,
They were
because
witches.
honestly, left-handed was actually associated with the devil for the longest time, especially
yeah,
in Christian beliefs. I
So
mean, my dad grew up
that's
in
go
where
ahead.
the nuns would actually smack his hand with a ruler if he tried to write with his left hand.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was one thing that they said. It's like, oh, left-handed, but now they're going back to light and dark. That's just
yeah.
like
They're gonna take
they're
that
just
away from us.
going back to old prejudices rather than actually just getting rid of it. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. That's just making
That
me nuts.
it makes us all angry because they don't understand where we're coming from. Where we're coming from is the simple point of this: you took established characters and you made them undesirable,
Killed
or
him.
you tried to make them undesirable, and then you gave us these new characters and said that we should praise them when they were crap. They didn't earn a damn thing, and here they are in our face. Daisy Ridley is a beautiful woman. I love it when she smiles;
Yeah.
it lights up the room.
Gorgeous and
Her
good
character
actor, good
Ray,
actress too.
Yeah.
yes, her
Hmm.
character Ray is
Yeah. She
garbage
is.
because it was written as
Yep.
garbage.
Garbage.
Yeah.
Garbage.
Did
Okay?
anyone here have a problem with her using force lightning? Because it
Did
really bothered me.
it bother
What?
Well,
you? Did it bother you as much as Yoda using Force Lightning?
To me, it was Yoda redirecting force lightning so much as not using it, because I remember when I saw that scene, I was like, wait a minute. I read in the young adult Jedi novels when I was a kid, I'm sorry, late teenager, that Jaina Solo used force lightning on the craft that Lobaka was flying. The fans actually got upset because at this point, uh, the Lucasfilm writers were trying to figure out who they were going to have go into the dark side. Was it going to be Jason or was it going to be Jaina? So they put that in there. The fans said they did not like that. So they actually went with Jason in the rest of the novels. And I remember that. And when I saw it, I was like, wait a minute.
I was
That
gonna say
is.
because Anakin died. Anakin Solo had died by that point.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
yeah. This was when they were still teenagers.
Yes.
So
Okay.
Anakin was still alive at that point, but it was later on after Anakin died. Then Jason went fully to the dark side. And I was
Became
like,
Darth Titus.
yes, and Cadus, yeah. I
Darth
was like,
Titus.
okay, why did you guys say that this, lightning was a dark trait because all it does was hurt people, but then all of a sudden you just make her be able to? I understand the fact that they were just trying to make them say, oh, she's actually the daughter of Palpatine, but it's not just a genetic trait. It is part of the force of what you want to do because if you want to hurt people, that's what you do. You use something that hurts
well,
people.
but yeah, but that's kind of semantics because now you're saying we all kind of figured she was a Palpatine. I don't know
I'm
if
I was cool with that. Honestly,
yeah.
I
I
thought that
Yeah.
was
mean,
kind of interesting.
that's kind of where I still put her at. So her doing that kind of showed her force ability. You know what I mean? Because she was strong with it. She let her emotions chew. I'm letting everybody down. And then she destroys the ship.
If
And
she
I'm
had
sitting there
crushed
in the
it or
theater
ripped it
going,
apart, that would have made a
I'm
lot more
sitting there in
sense.
the theater, man, just
But the
going,
lightning, to me, is a lot more dark side force, actually, of
okay,
an
but
ability.
well, if you're from Palpatine, I kind of think you'd be a little corrupted. I know you're
Eh,
saying it doesn't work
maybe.
that way because it's a hereditary, but it's Palpatine. That's how I looked at it. I found it kind
Hmm.
of funny that she destroyed the ship and then couldn't shake the apathy of it because she was just going around
No.
taking everything else from everybody else.
By the
The
way,
Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sai and Calibus and Master Shadow, this conversation, like once again, gave me goosebumps because it makes me want to go back and listen and read the audiobooks for the EU all over
Oh
again.
yeah.
Like when you were talking about that,
Yeah.
oh my God, I was remembering Mace Windu's book. I think it was called Shatterpoint,
Yes.
where
We went back.
Yes.
Yeah.
oh, like all those
Yep.
great novels. And this is the point I'm going to make, gentlemen. I have a prediction based on my career as a writer. So I'm going to make a prediction as how this show is going to go. And if I'm right, I don't know, uh, shoot me a message and say you hit it or something.
Okay.
Um, I think that the person underneath the hood is Darth Bane. And I think Darth Bane is going to wind up being one of the Force Witches. And they're going to gender swap that. And that's who that's going to be.
Oh.
Now, the
Okay.
reason why I say that is because of the laughably bad attention to lore and writing. Let me give you an example. Sai just had a very rousing conversation with Calibus about the use of force lightning, sparking from, no pun intended, sparking from when Yoda sent down the lightning on the tree, burning it while Luke was sitting there with him. What befuddled me about that scene wasn't his use of force, use of redirection of lightning or force lightning or whatever. It was the fact that they wrote him like crazy Yoda when Luke had first encountered him in Dagobah, when Yoda was testing Luke and was like, it was like looking for a great warrior, and acting all crazy because he was testing to see how humble Luke was and checking on his character. When he was in luminescent form, sitting there with Luke, he acted like crazy Yoda all over again. Why? Because the dum dums went back and only watched the first part of Empire Strikes Back to figure out how they were going to write him. They never watched the prequels or any other things. They didn't know that this was him acting like a nutso dude. So pushing forward, when you see in the Acolyte stone walls catching on fire, when when
Mhm.
when you
Uh,
when
there
you
are
see,
certain rocks that can catch on. No, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
thank you, I was like, sigh. I was like,
There's moss. Actually, every
woo.
wall, because it was in that forest type, had moss growing on it. So it was the moss that was catching
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
on. I'm
Okay.
just gonna make that up right now. But we'll
Uh-huh.
see.
that the bad writing that makes you kind of just throw popcorn at the screen is also like, I don't know, when they found May's crashed ship on the planet and the knight and his walks into the crashed ship and there's nothing wrong with the ship. There's no fires, there's no broken monitors, there's not even a chair overturned, and he says no one could have survived this. And I was like, I think a chessboard would have survived this.
Yeah.
I think the pieces would still be in the same place and you could resume your game because it looked like nothing happened. Like, obviously, you can crash from high orbit without thrusters and your ship is fine. And you can walk out without a scratch on you. And then that's stupid. And then they walk in and they look at the ship and they're like, well, obviously, no one can survive this. I'd be like, how did you get to be a knight? Did you sleep with somebody? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And then you find out they had an empathy coach on the set for the first episode because when the knight
What?
was shirtless, whenever he had his clothes, like he was shirtless from the waist off, Headland hired someone to come in and make sure that he was okay with being shirtless during that whole scene. So
Oh,
not only was it a freaking pointless scene, completely pointless for him to have his shirt off, but then they wanted to make sure that everyone knew that they took care of this man and making sure that he felt okay to have his shirt off. Now, that's why I think that's going to turn out to be Darth Bane. And they're going to say that Bane has been gender swapped and that it redefines the Force. And Bane is going to describe to people how there is no light side and there is no dark side because you have two figures in this movie. You have the mother and you have the father. You have the woman that carried the twins, and then you have the woman that created the twins, the phallic and the receiving, and that is going to represent light and dark, which makes no sense because as she was doing the training, and she was like, the thread is never used for offense. Cut 15 seconds later, and she's force pushing to somebody with it.
Yeah. Now, my wife
ugh.
has a theory. I was going to say my wife has a theory
Ooh, let's hear
that,
it.
okay, so her theory was that you did not see the mother during that scene when everybody was killed. So she said she's the one that is on that mountaintop, as you know, that carried out and killed all of the witches and then left with May. So that's her theory, and we want to see if that's what happened because if you notice, every one of the women screamed at the same time. They died at one time. So somebody powerful had to be there. And that little fire would not have killed anybody. So
Mm-mm.
that's, we want to see if she's the one that actually did it. Because if you look at the body, like you said, yes, it's a female that's holding that lightsaber on that mountaintop. But we're thinking it probably is that Dathomir witch still alive because she took May with her, and May ran to the tree to look for her sister, which she wasn't there, so she thought her sister was dead. So that's her theory.
What
For
do you
me,
What do you
I like
think?
that theory. I like that theory a lot. I would totally hate that if it's Darth Bane, because Darth Bane should have been years, much, much more
Yes.
years beyond that. Plus, you know, yeah, I don't want him to be female, and I don't want to be that stupid crap where, like you just said, I would be totally angry, and I'd probably have to stop watching every Star Wars thing that comes out from this point on, and just go back and watch the stuff I enjoy. So please don't let that happen. That's the only thing I can say. Please don't let that happen.
That's a good point, though. I mean, how are you guys navigating this? I literally after this, and again, I find it better than Andor, but I would watch Andor for Mon Mothma. But I got to be honest with you when I say I am not pressed for anything else Star Wars that Disney's pushing out. I'm just not pressed for it. I'm just not because I know what you're going to do to it. I know what you're going to do to it. I know what you're going to do to our hero. You killed off my favorite character, Mr. Han Solo, made him a deadbeat dad, and then to add insult to injury, when Leia sees Chewie and Rey, she hugs Rey and leaves Chewie all out in the open.
Oh, that was weird.
Yeah.
She's
Well,
Then
never
you got to see. Well, think
and
about
you
how
give
Star Wars has
Falcon.
treated Chewie from the get go. They've always treated him like a second class citizen. When you think about it, when at the first time you saw him in A New Hope, everybody gets a medal. Chewie's just standing off to the side.
the
Yeah.
So
family
that's his
pet.
You know
brother.
what they retcon
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
retcon that now. They lost his medal.
Yeah. I
Okay, well,
saw that comic. I thought that was
Jesus,
funny.
come
I was like,
on.
yeah,
That's
that's
come
the
on,
brother
really?
standing there because he represented all of us that couldn't be in the movie at that time, and we didn't get a medal. So they gave
I
him a
can agree
medal
with
in that
that.
movie. So that's how that happened. But
It's
I
fun to
no,
just
watch in Lego Star Wars, but it's not cool when they actually make it canon.
yeah,
I
The
yeah,
mean
Again,
it's
the
just crazy.
Chewie in the EU is way more pimp. Like
Yes.
hell yeah,
the Chewie in the EU has depth. He has a family. He has you understand what the stakes were for the enslavement of his species.
Hmm.
There was even a great EU novel where Leia was trapped on a planet, and these creatures that were lightsaber resistant creatures had been freed by Darth Vader, and they
I love that
served her
story. Yeah,
right, and they
The
love that
called
story.
Frograi or
Yeah, because
Frograi. Yeah.
yeah, Palpatine was only allowing them to progress so much, so they kept them still subservient, and they were what is it? She could understand them, and she lifted the lightsaber when they were holding her by the throat, and they smelled her, and it was like you
Yep.
smell like Darth Vader,
They called her
and that
Lady
was the
Vader.
only reason
Lady
she
Vader.
survived. Yep, I remember that story. And then, like you said, I love that they had Lobaka because he was a Jedi Knight, which was Chewie's nephew.
Yep.
And like you said, he had a family. He would go home. He would spend time with his family, and then he would go out. So somebody even said, each person that wrote those novels, they read the previous set of novels before they wrote theirs, and they would incorporate that story into theirs. So it wasn't like, you get this, and now all of a sudden something new is happening, which had nothing to do with the previous story. And I think it was great that all of those writers kind of worked together, and it gave you one cohesive story instead of like the last three movies that was I'll write this, now you come along and you write whatever you want, and then now oh shit that's fucked up. I need somebody to come back and fix the whole thing to close it out.
Yeah.
So that was the problem with those, you know.
Well, you know what they
Gentlemen,
did too. They also said that when we write that, well, this doesn't make sense. Oh, don't worry about it. Somebody is going to write a book that'll explain everything. When they do the book, they'll explain everything.
And
that's
So they
how
left it up to the author of the novelization. That's how I learned about Ray downloading the information from Kylo Ren, and that's how she escaped and did the mind trick. And I said, that is sorry writing. Because if you could not explain that on the big screen and you had to make me go get a book to explain your movie, you failed as a director.
And
yeah.
a
You
writer.
failed as a director.
Oh yeah,
let's examine something real quick. Can we all agree that there are timeless, insanely well written, insanely well thought out novels in the EU out there right now that could be made into a movie that everyone would enjoy?
10,000%.
Oh,
absolutely,
definitely.
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, with that consensus on this panel, I hypothesize that there must be a reason. Financially, do they not want to give royalties to the original author?
Part.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps. 25% of the original content must be altered in order for them to no longer have to give royalties to the original production company. Hence why J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, their uniforms and their ship looked at least 25% different, so that way they did not have to give Paramount the money. They could
That
keep
makes
it
sense.
within Bad Robot. The moving forward though, whenever you have KK looking at Lucas saying on stage, we are going to take such good care of your product. We're going to make sure we honor it. And then after they did what they did, he likened them to white slavers. So I don't think that was said offhanded. I think that that was extremely important because what white slavers did was that they obliterated someone else's culture and they reformed you into what they wanted you to do, which is a mindless slaving drone that would do whatever they wanted them to do. What we're getting right now is not just an abomination, but is a retooling system. Okay, whenever, and I don't want to speak for you, Sai, or Master Shadow, or Calibus Ran, but I took away moral lessons from the Holy Trilogy and from the prequels. I
Same
found
here.
Yes.
what I felt like Luke's eternal optimism is what finally turned his father from the dark side to the light, and
Mm-hmm.
that he proved to his sister and to the rest of the galaxy anybody can be redeemed. And his dad picked up Palpatine and chunked him into like a whatever that was, a power generator, and saved the universe. Vader did that, not Luke. Luke inspired Vader with his persistence, dedication, and
Yeah.
his discipline towards his dad. I spit up a meme the other day of Happy Father's Day, and it showed Luke in handcuffs and Vader beside him. And I thought that was great, but I had to fast forward in my mind where that Luke was on that elevator and he was like, "Man, I can feel the conflict within you, Pops. Like, I can feel it. You know, you've been doing this dark stuff for too long. And, you know, there's got to be a breaking point." And uh and he did. And now you fast forward to what we're at now, where Luke was hanging out on an island for like what, 2 decades because he tried to kill his nephew because he had a bad dream. uh, like, what? That's not the eternal optimist I know. Like, the eternal optimist I know would have sat on the side of the bed and was like, "Hey, man, what's going on? What's in your head? Let's talk about this. Let's
Yeah,
go. Let's go on a camping trip real quick, and we'll let the other people train here in this temple, and let's you and I sauce this out because there's nowhere that you can go where I can't help you turn around."
Yeah.
And
yeah,
You know what? When you say that, I kept saying to myself, when I saw him throw the lightsaber, you know, I'm sitting,
Oh,
I'm
that hurt.
dumbfounded.
That
I'm
hurt.
I'm dumbfounded. I'm like, well, what the fuck is this? That was my first reaction. And then when
Yeah.
he's, and I'm like,
Oh,
wait a minute. This guy, against all odds, saved his father. He kept telling, I felt the good in him. Just like his mother said, just like Padme said, I feel the good in him. You know what I mean? He's not, he can be saved. And I'm just like, what are you guys doing to this man? Because I'm telling you, when I'm in the theater, I'll never forget it.
Mm.
We get tickets. Everybody has seen Return of the Jedi. Me and my friends could not go when it opened. They're talking about it all in school, and my dad gets home from deployment. He's like, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go to the movies. I want to go see Star Wars. Can you take me to see Star Wars? He goes, you gather 4 or 5 of your friends and we'll all go see Star Wars. And I'm like, yeah.
Dope.
So Luke jumps off the speeder bike on Endor, raises up and ignites that saber. I'm like, oh, Jedi's, okay.
yeah.
I like that. And then, of course, saving his father. But then they go ahead and they do this. And then, of course, we hear about the infamous Luke Skywalker in the cubicle with the line drawn through him. And diversity over story is on the Lucas storyboard. This is not made up stuff. We're not just saying this. This is not regurgitated information. If you look, you can find it. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is you destroy this for what reasons? And I talked to Bo, and me and Bo are talking back and forth, and I remember those things. I remember what Kathleen Kennedy said. And the last thing happened was Steven Spielberg. And I love Galaxy's Edge. When I went there as a young man, those those what 5 years ago when I went to Galaxy's Edge, for the first time, I'm there and I'm seeing these ships. They're these huge things. These things are real. And the 7-year-old me is freaking out because I'm living the Star Wars adventure, and the cast and the crew are sitting there. And when they talk to you like they're actually these people from Batu and all this other stuff. And I'm just amazed. And when I saw the Millennium Falcon, I almost cried.
Yeah.
I'm at the time, I'm like 49 years old, and I'm like, this is this is my Mecca. This is it. You know what I mean? I can tell you honestly, after seeing all this stuff go down and all the negativity, I don't have that desire to rush down to Galaxy's Edge. I just don't. I'm tired of the bull. But this is the thing. This is the thing. I'm going to play a little bit of it. We have to be very careful how we do this, but check this out, guys.
Okay.
Indispensable people without whom none of us would be here tonight. And that starts.
Wait a minute. Did I not do it right?
You're doing good.
Okay, you guys can hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay.
Starts with the person who created Indiana Jones,
George
Lucas.
George Lucas.
The person who is Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
And the person is the glue to all 5 of these films.
All 5 films.
They gave us all of our rhythm and all of our melody.
She's ready to step forward.
John Williams.
The maestro, John Williams. Boom! Look at that look.
Wow, her head froze.
Watch
Her
this.
head froze.
Pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half. And
Oh yeah, she looks
Boom.
fit.
There are 3 indispensable people
So
without whom none of us
as
would
Bo
be
Damn,
said,
I've never seen that.
Yeah, and I've never
look,
seen it either.
I'm telling you, this is what I do. When I tell you I'm in the office, I'm either writing on the book or I'm making videos, creating little short intros or
Can't
doing
hear you,
this
Calibus.
research.
It's still
Oh,
playing over you.
We can still hear it.
all right. Hold on.
In
Okay.
the in
Sorry
the
about that.
guy in the guise of New Hope, can I leave the panel with an idea of justice? Um,
Please.
Oh.
I feel like that we're all in the movie The Reign of Fire, where Christian Bale and Gerard
Uh,
Butler were telling the girls and the boys the legend of Star Wars, and we're talking and we're trying
yes.
to impart these life lessons on our kids, but Hollywood is fighting back with this, and I think that fight is about to go not their way. Not because they're afraid of losing money, because obviously they're using it as a tax write-off, or the government is subsidizing them to create this messaging. There's something bigger that's going behind here, where the losses are not that big of a deal to them. But Gina Carano, Miss Carano, came out 2 days ago, and Lucas tried to settle with them, and Carano said no. And it has now moved into Discovery. So, for those of you that don't know what Discovery is, it is when this first came out, I was super excited about that because this is going to be the truth sayer. We're going to find out what Lucas's real intentions are with Star Wars with the Gina Carano case. And Elon Musk knew that too. That's why he backed her. If all these allegations that she's putting forward are being heard by a judge, and now it is because it wasn't thrown out. Lucasfilms immediately threw money at her, said, "Here, we'll settle out of court." And she said, "No," because now they get to put subpoenas to Lucasfilms and they get to read every email where Miss Carano has been mentioned, from Kathleen Kennedy all the way down to the coffee boy. There are going to be every text message from every phone that is paid for by Disney is going to be filtered for Gina Carano's name. So if there is the best boy that works on a movie script, to the grip, to the stunt coordinator, to whoever, all of that, if Gina's name is mentioned, they go through all the servers and they farm all that information. Now, if there's let's say there's like a dude and a chick that are like flirting with each other on company phones, they can't expose any of that. But what they do get to do is that if there was an agenda here, if they were like, hey, we're into female empowerment, but not that kind of female empowerment, right? Like
Yeah.
she's not playing ball with our direction. So if you get a conversation like that that proves that there was premeditation behind it, they get to bring that into court, and they get to put Kathleen Kennedy on the stand, and they get to say, okay, so on April 25th, yada yada year, you sent this message to Leslie Headland, and you said, hey, we're putting Gina Carano in this struggle session with 40 other people, which they wanted to do, by the way, and to where that she was going to apologize over and over again, and we're going to line her out and make sure that she's on board with our agenda. And maybe they actually say what the agenda is. And I think Star Wars is going to quickly retcon itself, where it's going to go right down to Mandalorian season 1 and 2. It's going to go down to the Holy Trilogy and the prequels, Rogue One, and a few other shows. And the rest of it, Lucas is just going to come out and say, hey guys, I screwed up. I'm real sorry. So on my shelf, guys, these are the movies that I have that I consider to be canon in my universe that I did. And I think that's very possible.
That would be outstanding if they did do something like that and take
Yeah.
all the other crap that nobody really wants to see or really cares about and remove that. I mean, I am good, like you said, with the movies 1 through 6. I am good with Rogue One. I absolutely love Rogue One. I even enjoyed Solo. I enjoyed that movie. I did not like, I mean, I tolerated, what is it, 7, 8, 9? 9 to me was the best of them all, just because I got to see, what is it, what's his name? Billy D. Williams was back. I was so excited he came back. So I like nine, just because of Billy D. Williams. Um, seven was good. Eight is a throwaway because you got rid of all of my characters that I love. You killed every single one of them. And then you made, like you said, Luke to be some guy who closed himself off to the Force. That was stupid. I love The Mandalorian. Like everybody says, seasons one and two were great. I thought it should have ended with, Grogu staying with Luke. That makes
Mm,
sense. Now, why the hell did he come back to The Mandalorian? I mean, it's nice that he did, but it was okay that he was no longer in the show. I was cool with that. And especially the way you had Luke come on board was reminiscent of the way Rogue One had Darth Vader go on board and take care of everything. 'Cause that to me was one of the greatest scenes. When that lightsaber lit up, you were like sitting in the
Woo!
theater, you were like, "Oh shit, shit's about to go
yes,
down."
yes,
That's how
yes.
I felt. I will watch that scene, hundreds of times. I'll just keep rewinding it just to watch him walk down that aisle, and everybody's trying to get the message out. And I'm like, I don't know how they're going to get away. I don't know what they're going to do, but I love that. And then of course, New Hope was the first thing I saw. And going back, looking at that scene and then compare it to the scene in the New Hope, I love there was somebody that did an updated version of Darth Vader and
Oh,
Obi Wan,
Obi-Wan.
yeah, fighting on board. That's what they really should put into it because that makes that scene 100 times better.
Yeah.
But it was a sign of the times. That's the way we have to look at it. But if you can get rid of all the other crap, I am 100% down with that. And the cartoons were even good, up until Kathleen Kennedy started getting her hands into it because, like everybody was saying, what is it? Rebels is great. The Clone Wars cartoon was fantastic. I
mm,
watched every one of those at least twice, So that was Star Wars right there. But then now the stuff they're giving us is either for children when it comes to a cartoon, it's specifically put towards kids, or it's woke, as everybody wants to say now, which I'm like, I have nothing that I can watch or that I'm really enjoying. I'm just watching it to watch. And that's the way
yeah.
I felt recently about everything.
Gentlemen, it has been an absolute honor. Mr. Rand, I hate to do this to you. I'm so honored to be on this show, but I do need to run, sir.
Oh, it's time to wrap up anyway.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
It's time to wrap up.
Yeah.
So, um, guys, this is the panel. This is what we do. We all come together from all walks of life to join here and give you our opinions on things. So basically, you can take what we say with a grain of salt, or you can take it as gospel. It's up to you. We want you to make up your own mind on what we discuss. We just gave you some food of thought, digest it, and use your own mind. So, with that, I will leave you with just what I always leave you with: long life, health, and prosperity.